Yes, ma'am. Could you repeat?
Solutions for the north and south border.
Okay, so on the south border, which I think is the more acute problem at the moment, let me tell you what my solutions are at first. We're not going to shoot them stone cold dead at the border. And we're not sending the American army into Mexico. Okay? I heard that on the stage on Wednesday night in Miami from TV tough guy Ron DeSantis. And it sounds really great, right? I'm going to shoot him stone cold dead. The guy from Tallahassee with his cowboy boots on, right? Guess what? It's not going to happen. By the way, you know what he also said Wednesday night? I was standing there and I actually wrote it down on my pad because I couldn't believe it. He said he's going to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico's going to pay for it. Now, look, many of us were naive enough to actually believe that promise from Donald Trump 8 years ago. Even Donald Trump now said, well, I never really had any way to make Mexico pay for it. Calling us stupid for believing him. And DeSantis doubled down on it. I'm going to build a wall and finish it, but you're going to pay for it. All of us. I think it's a smart investment for us to make, but we're going to have to pay for it. Mexico's not going to pay for us to build a wall on our property any more than you would pay for your neighbor to build a fence on their property. But here's what we will do. It's a complicated problem, and I do 5 things. First, just understand how big the problem is. In the last 11 months, we've averaged 200,000 illegal encounters a month. You know how many detention beds we have at the border? 38,000. So, talk about a math problem. That's a big math problem. So, first thing I do is sign an executive order to send the National Guard to the border to partner with Customs and Border Patrol. At 200,000 encounters a month, they are overwhelmed. They don't have enough manpower to be able to do what needs to be done to stop people from coming in. So we need to send our National Guard down there. That's an appropriate use of our National Guard to guard our national border. Second, I would double the number of detention beds from 38,000 to 80,000 so that we have beds to be able to detain people while we figure out what their status is going to be. Third, when we determine that people are asking for asylum, our laws require them to have an asylum hearing. Well, you know how long you have to wait for an asylum hearing now? 4 years. So this is what happens. They say, you have to come back for an asylum hearing. Come back to El Paso in 4 years. Until then, we'll see you. Well, who's coming back to El Paso in 4 years? They're getting into this big continental country and they're never coming back. So we need to make those asylum hearings less than a year. And then we can detain people during that period of time. The only way to do that is triple the number of immigration judges. We don't have enough judges to hear these cases by a long shot. So we have to triple the number of judges. I would do that too. Fourth, I would add 10,000 Customs and Border Patrol officers to be able to ease the National Guard back to its other duties. But that's going to take a year to do, I'll tell you the truth. You have to recruit them, you have to train them, and then deploy them. So anybody tells you you're going to do it on day one is full of it. Because who they get? They're going to wave a magic wand and produce the 10,000 people? It can happen in a year, but it can't happen faster than that. And then fifth and final, we've got to change our immigration laws. We haven't done that for 40 years. We have 6 million open jobs in this country right now, in this economy. 6 million open jobs. That means those are jobs that Americans either don't want to do or can't do. So every time we've had that problem in our history as we grow, we've brought immigrants in who wanted to do those jobs and had skills to do those jobs. So let's put those folks to the front of the line. Let's have a merit-based immigration system that says, if you have the skill set and the desire to do this particular industry, and we have a lot of open jobs, you go to the front of the line. And you come in, and you're going to pay taxes, and you're going to learn English, and those are going to be the requirements that you come in here and get a job where you can then take some of that money and send it back to your families and whatever country you come from. We also need to have E-Verify for all of our employers so that they know who they're hiring. It's not fair for them. The honest ones sometimes get hoodwinked, and the dishonest ones hoodwink us. So we need E-Verify. But the honest truth is, to get those two things, which Democrats don't want either, we're going to have to give them something. Because we're going to need 60 votes in the United States Senate to get anything done. So don't listen to all these people saying, I'm going to force it through. That's what we've been listening to for 40 years and nobody's done it. So I'm going to have to give them something. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it's something on Dreamers. Maybe it's something on Path to Citizenship. I don't know. But I'll know when it's a good deal. And then I'll make the deal. But we can't sit here any longer digging our heels into the dirt and think it's going to change. All we're going to do is keep arguing with each other. And so it's a complicated problem. And by the way, the same principles apply to the northern border, but the problem's not as acute there. Now, what we have to look out for is, as we tighten the southern border, is it going to shift to the northern border? So that we have to use intelligence capability and technology to be monitoring on a regular basis what's going on up here at the northern border. So I wouldn't put all the resources north that we're putting south right away, but hopefully what we do is tighten things to the south, which will allow us to shift resources to the north if they try their entry point to be coming from the north, because we made it too tight in the south for them, not too tight for us. So that's the way I would do it. It's complicated. It's something you can't do necessarily really well in a minute and a half answer on a debate stage. So instead what you get is finish them, shoot them stone cold dead. You know, I'm going to send the army in there. We've had enough of TV tough guys running for president of the United States and making those promises to us. Because what we now know is they don't keep them. Let's make promises we can keep, and then people will be a lot happier. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Governor, what would you view about the people who have already crossed in the last few years, the millions who are here and displaced here?
I think it's a combination. I think with some of the more recent ones, you're going to have to keep them gathered where they are and send them back. And what those numbers are is kind of hard to tell at this point, but I'm sure that amounts to at least 1 million people, given just the number of encounters we're talking about over time. For people who have been here a lot of years, the idea, and I heard Governor DeSantis say this too, that the estimate is 7 to 8 million illegal immigrants in the country. He said he's going to round them all up and send them all back. Back to where exactly? Back to their home countries? Okay, try to figure that out. And think about the logistical task that law enforcement will have to do to round up 7 or 8 million people, round them up and take them where? Where are we going to stage them? Then how are we going to transport them? How many airplanes, buses are we going to need to move these people depending upon where we're sending them? So I'm very skeptical about the idea of once you get more than about 1 million people, about this mass deportation that both DeSantis and Trump are talking about. Again, it sounds really tough, but they never give you the next sentence. I'm going to deport them. How? How are you going to do it? I remember back when it was about 4 million, the statistic was that if you wanted to bust them back over the southern border and start sending it down to Central America, that you would need to have school buses, hold generally 50 people, back to back from Seattle to Los Angeles, back to back, to fit all those people. So my point is, we've got to figure out a way to get about 1 million of them that are recent, and of course, we should end all this sanctuary city and sanctuary state stuff. If you have a criminal record, you go to jail, and after you get out of jail, you go out of the country. That's easy. You get them on a bus to the jail, and then when they're out of jail, you put them back on the bus, and you take them to the airport, and you send them out. We should not be allowing anybody who commits crimes in this country or has a criminal record on the way in from staying here. So as we break it down, there'll be a lot of people we're going to be able to get rid of that way. And getting rid of sanctuary cities and sanctuary states will be a big part of it. And what I would do as president is say, you want to be a sanctuary city or sanctuary state, you can be, but you get no federal aid. You got that much money that you can pay for illegal people, and look what's happening now. I'm by New York all the time. Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul say, help us, help us. Hey man, you're the one who said you were a sanctuary city and sanctuary state. Now they're here. They loved it when it was cheap and easy. Nobody was coming. They could play to the grandstand and look like they had a big heart. Now, when everyone's showing up in New York, It's costing New York hundreds of millions of dollars a month. They just added this year in September, 8,000 students to schools just of illegal immigrants who have come there in the last year. Huge cost.
So if I could follow up, how would you see a really good absorption of these people into the country? Because clearly, we have a war.
Well, look, I think that there are going to be some people who don't want to become citizens, and some people who you have to look to for work visas and those type of things. Some of them seasonal, some of them year-round, depending on what jobs they have. There are going to be some people who are interested in becoming citizens. Well, then that'd be part of that negotiation that I talked about before. To say, what rules are we going to put around that? What requirements are we going to make of them? Pay all your back taxes. Learn English. Do the things you need to do, and which, by the way, we've always required of immigrants to do if they were going to come to this country. So it'll be a combination of those things, along with deportation. And you know what? There's going to be some of them that will just disappear into the continental country that we just won't be able to find. And given all the other crime problems we have in this country, I have to tell you, I don't want to make law enforcement's exclusive task in this country rounding up people here illegally to deal with them. We've got lots of other criminal elements to deal with in this country that I want our police officers and our federal agents to focus on as well.